Good morning, everyone. Welcome once again to the Shaping Sustainability series. Today, we are celebrating and discussing about one of the most important ingredients in every city, and that is the citizen. The citizen is one of the most active ingredients of a city, and we need to build everything around it. And so, rather than have experts in closed rooms thinking by themselves, how about we think of ways in which we include citizens in important decisions and we make sure everybody has a say in the process of decision making and of creating and designing a sustainable city that is also friendly for us and friendly for all of the stakeholders involved. My name is Glod, and today I have the pleasure and honor to have Servaz Van Berkum as our guest once again. If you have been to Urban Talks last year, you've had the chance to meet him here in Bucharest, and we've also had another podcast earlier in the spring. And today we want to find out a little bit more of how citizen involvement works, especially in a time like this that is a bit unprecedented. But we have examples of how you can still engage with citizens, still bringing them to the table, even though we are forced to keep a distance and each stay in our own place. First and foremost, Servaz, thank you so much for tuning in. It is a pleasure to have you back.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be back.
So usually we were properly talking last year that we would love to have you here in Bucharest, and unfortunately it is not the case. But hopefully next year we will manage to have you back here again. I would like to start off to show a little bit of the things that Servaz does with Parcus de. I always get the pronunciation right. Parcus Bagger. Yes. So I would like to first start off with the video, just so you get a bit of a sense of the work that Servaz does and the atmosphere there. And then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty details.
Amazing.
Let us begin.
Juist in deze onzekere tijden is het belangrijk om elkaar te blijven ontmoeten, te informeren en te inspireren over hoe we het morgen slimmer en beter kunnen doen. Welkom bij de livecast van Pakhuis de Zwijger.
Goedenavond, welkom bij Ruimte, live vanuit Pakhuis de Zwijger. Ja.
Indeed. So what we wanted to give you, like I said, a bit of a glimpse of is how you organize events and how you want to bring people together to think ambitiously about the future and to get involved into subjects that matter. And so I would like to give you the first to tell us a bit of the story of Parcus and how all of this project came to be and how you became involved in it. And once again, for the people that maybe this is the first time they're tuning into our series, Shaping Sustainable Cities is a series that we are doing in partnership with the Netherlands Embassy here in Bucharest. And the idea is to share good case practices and to find ways to collaborate, exchange ideas, and to build together sustainable cities, no matter whether we're talking about Romania, Netherlands, or any other city in the world. If we have people tuning in from other countries, give us a hello and let us know where you're tuning in from. So, Servaz, tell us a bit of the story and how you got involved in it.
Yeah. Balkans Go Circular is a platform for urban innovation. We make programming normally in our venue, as you just saw, via livecast nowadays, but normally with people in the venue. We talk with people, or let people talk to each other about all different kinds of topics, ranging from creative industries to design, to urban planning, to sustainability, inclusiveness, you name it. The main idea is that we want to talk with people or want to ask questions how we can reach this ideal society, this point beyond the horizon where we can strive to be, hopefully very soon. And this city or this country or this living space should be inclusive, happy, successful, thriving, creative, beautiful, inclusive, you name it, all these kind of things. And then together with all different kinds of people, we try to get there. And we do that by bringing people together. And we believe that the governing of cities and the governing of society is not the business of government alone. It's the business of us all. We all should be a part of this. So we try to get city makers, community buildings on a local level, connected with larger corporations, universities, knowledge institutions, but also with the grocery down the street, or with people just working anywhere in cities. And we try to connect people, and that's part of the program you just saw. We try to connect people on not just our own topic, but we try to connect topics with each other. And the program we just saw is called Ruimte, 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 which means public space, public space, public space, or space, space, space. And perhaps the Netherlands is kind of unique in that we're a small country with a lot of inhabitants. So to give an example, Sweden has 11 times more space, but only 60% of the population the Netherlands has. So we really have to look at the detailing. And the thing with this program is we try to get people involved in mobility, in sustainability, and with community building in cities, to bring them together and to let them talk about what the future of the Netherlands should look like, and how we can use designing and clever planning to make all these big scale problems solvable. So in a nutshell, that's what we do. And we try to connect people on a topic and try to be interdisciplinary with our approach. We can't really explain or predict what's going to happen in advance, but we know something always happens when you put people together, and let something unexpected happen.
I'm assuming
quite nice.
Yeah. I'm assuming that when people think of the idea of bringing citizens or bringing more people in the room, that it's going to be very hard to control the process. There's going to be chaotic, but most of the time that chaos can turn a little bit to order. Can you share a bit of how that has been for you whenever you bring in different people? How did you deal with this, let's say, differentiating ideas, and how you could find the common ground?
Chaos is needed for creativity. So let's start with that. Now we make a programming where we have this understanding. So there's one rule when you enter the room in Pakhuis de Zwijger here in Amsterdam, that you should be open for dialogue. We don't do debate, we do dialogue. And when you enter, you have to be open to that. So a moderator is moderating an event, but is able to talk to the audience. Okay, you are able to participate. We want you to participate, but please be respectful and be open-minded. And so we should be very strict in the way we ask questions. We try only to ask questions. We are very activistic when it comes to spoken word and connecting people. But there it stops. From that point onward, we try to have the right kind of questions, the right kind of dialogue, and there all people and all experts should be able to be shared.
Mm-hmm. So it's very much in there's kind of this concept of the pre-game, how you already set the meeting in advance in terms of these are the rules, and that frame makes it a lot easier to have that conversation. True.
So in the past, of course, we had these large-scale venues with a lot of people, and I'm looking if I can find something, but you have to picture this huge venue with 300 people, 300 plus people. Perhaps I can show you a picture that gives an idea about what it looks like.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Let me do that.
In the meantime, just as a nice reminder to whoever is tuning in, please leave us your comments and messages so we can, and if you have any particular questions for Servaz, feel free to do it in the comments. Please, Servaz.
So as you can see right now, this feels kind of claustrophobic when I look at it right now, but this was normal just a few months ago, a half year ago, where we talked about topics we needed to talk about. So, and you see a lot of people in the room, and they're all committed to dialogue, and they were all able to participate. But it wasn't chaos. It was structured with the right kind of questions. A lot of, and also the moderator in control of the process. But it works. Another example, and you just saw the video. The video you just saw. I was sitting in this venue on my own, with just a few cameras and people behind the cameras, of course, but that is a completely different setting. Perhaps I can show this one. This is what it looks like right now. So socially distanced, another programming where we don't have that much space. Oh, sorry. So it's radically different, but in a sense, it's still the same process, because we invite people to join us on all different levels. And in the past, it was live in the venue, and now it's via Zoom or via live TV, which is fun, but not as fun as it used to be.
So in last year, if I remember, you were organizing how many events per year?
About, including the We Make the City Festival, we organized about 1,000 every year. And those are one-off discussions, dialogues on all different kinds of topics on the range we're talking about. I'm not doing that on my own, of course. The chair of my organization, the founder of the organization, started it about 15 years ago, just with a few programs per week, and we moved up to where we are right now. We're doing that together with a team of program makers of about 15, and a lot of moderators and a lot of other people making sure that this works. Since COVID, we did about 500 to 600 programs via live stream.
Only 500, 600.
Something like that, yeah.
Well, so it would be interesting if you can show us how the website works, because I really love the way you have adapted to the COVID situation. Normally, this would mean, okay, we're done. We can't do this anymore. But you found some really innovative solutions. And on one side, I'm also interested in showing the platform, because I'm pretty sure we have English-speaking people in our audience that would love to see some of your English-speaking events. So here's a nice little preview of what you'll find on the website.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure you can share this, but if you go to deswijger.nl, and please do share the URL. If you go to agenda, just deswijger.nl/agenda, and there's this button to switch to English. Here you can see all the programmings that are coming up. So, for example, on Tuesday, designing with data today, or journalism and safety, or how can different markets economy work in practice. All different kinds of topics we talk about. And you can say, okay, this architecture now, I want to participate. Then you say, like, I want to make a reservation. You can log in via Facebook, and I think also LinkedIn and Twitter. And then we know you're participating, and then you can join us via Zoom or via livecast. If you do it via livecast, it's more traditional television. If you do it via Zoom, you have the opportunity to ask questions. This program is built with the Amsterdam Institute for Architecture. Together with them, we make this idea. And so you see who is participating. You see a bit about information about that, some extra information. So that gives an idea of what's coming up. But if you want to say, okay, I want something of a Netflix experience, you can go to, like, for example, October. Again, English language programming. And then there's a lot of free discussions. There's one of mine, for example, where I spoke with the Chief Technology Officer of the City of Amsterdam, Ger Baron, with Bianca Wiley from Open Government Advocate and co-founder of Tech Reset Canada, quite interesting, with Ben Severny from Public Code, and with Annette Numa from Estonia, about how we should approach public safety and security in these kind of times. So that was a lot of fun. And it's all free to watch. So you can all join this free of charge. This was actually one with where Gratian was participating. Oh no, not this one, but the previous one. And this one. So as you can see, there are a lot of events going on, a lot of opportunities to talk with people, and that's good. Let's stop screening. And it's all free of charge. And we want, excuse me. We want it to be free of charge because open dialogue should be free. And of course, since we're an NGO and we were hit quite hard with coronavirus because our normal business case couldn't go on, we do have this pay-as-you-like system, but we don't want this entry level to be able to participate. So if you don't have the money or you don't want to spend the money, you still should be able to join the dialogue.
That's a very beautiful principle. And then it's interesting that with the limited resources, you managed to create this environment. And I'm curious whether you know a bit of the history, but in the beginning, once this organization began and you started making this, how was the relationship with local governments? Were they appealing? Like, were they interested in collaborating with you guys, or was there friction? How did the relationship evolve with local governments?
We try to be very independent because that is our logo. It signals that this is an open dialogue where people from all views should be able to intercourse with each other on a fact-based level. That's quite important. So there is a bullshit meter. That being said, our relationship with government is excellent. They were actually quite instrumental in a way in making this whole place possible. So they have been supporting. Of course, there was always one time that it was more difficult to get some funding. This is always with subsidies and these kind of things. It's always quite difficult. A small percentage of our income comes from subsidies. But still, it is so important to be independent. And luckily, our partners and also subsidizing partners are giving us the opportunity to be independent, to really be disconnected from them. But this building, for example, where we're in right now, you saw it in the early clip. This building is part of the Eastern Harbor of Amsterdam. So I don't know if people know the history of Amsterdam, but Amsterdam is built in a swamp on this part of the sea arm, part of the North Sea. It's called the Zuiderzee, so Southern Sea. Strange because it's in the north, but still. And this in the south of that sea arm of the bay, there was this smaller bay called Het IJ, which is still now called a river, Het IJ, because of course it's dammed off. The sea is being driven back, but originally Amsterdam was on the sea. Where we are right now, it's it was sea 200 years ago, 100 years ago, well, not 150 years ago, and at a certain point, the harbor was here, the main harbor of Amsterdam, and also these warehouses, and that's also the name of our organization. Pakhuis means warehouse in Dutch. And when they tried to redevelop this area as a living area, quite interesting living area, they looked at these warehouses and saw the architectural value of the warehouses. A lot of bottom-up movement tried to protect the warehouses. And this was one of the warehouses that was saved in a way and was given to the public good, to creative industries, to cultural society. And that ended up to be us. And of course, there was a lot of pressure. And of course, our founder and other people put on a lot of pressure on the city government. But in the end, they gave in and made it possible. And it is quite interesting because this was the place, this building was supposed to be turned down because it was supposed to be a bridge to the Java Island, which is an island just on the other side, well, in Het IJ. They built a bridge through the building as this compromise idea. And I love to have this as an example of what Amsterdam, or the Amsterdam approach, I call the Amsterdam approach, of letting everyone be part of society and have this bottom-up movement. This is this living embodiment of that, because even though there needed to be this bridge to this new area, to this island, culture still won in a sense.
That's good. And I love the principle. Culture still won. I'm curious because, like I said, this discussion is very much on knowing how we can integrate good case practices like yours and using your experience as reference. So now that has been this wave of enthusiasm after the local elections. We have new mayors, and in many cities you have young mayors with a completely different vision. What advice would you give them, thinking that most of them have had this platform of involving citizens in the process? What would be your advice, or what principles would you recommend follow so that they implement such a dialogue in a constructive way?
Yeah, for government, I've perhaps I didn't answer your questions all in the beginning, but perhaps this will be a nice add to where I come from. I've been working a long time in my life. I've been working in civic society. I've been when I was 18, I started being active in politics at many levels. I've been a member of Provincial Assembly of North Holland, where Amsterdam is, but also all different kinds of things. But the thing I always found important is be honest, be realistic to people where they can talk about, what they can say. So if there is this project, a city or a government or whatever needs to do, be clear about where the choices are and what things are really needed and there's no choice about. If you need to build a highway, I hope we can build less highways, but still, if you need to build a highway, be clear about that you need this connection. And be clear about the specific goals that needs to be achieved. So, for example, I've been working together with the city government, and I've showed this last year in Bucharest in my presentation. But I've been working with this area where it has completely removed the parking spaces, and we started to work with them, with the community there, with the people living there, on redesigning the neighborhood. And so we have all free range of redesigning, but you have to stick within these rules. Number one was parking spaces won't return. Number two was you need to follow the guidelines of the city when it comes to public space. So people in wheelchairs need to be able to get through the streets. It needs to be traffic safety. It sounds like an open door, but still very important to say that. And all these kind of rules. And then you lay down the ground rules, and then you can start talking and designing with people and give them proper opportunity. So, and try to give as much choice to the people when you work with them, but at the same time be very clear and clear about where there is no choice. And that way you can take people seriously. And second advice would be just do it. Go ahead, involve people, because they have every right to be involved. It's their city as well. Same as yours.
Indeed. I think I very much agree with this concept of, because like we talked before about how chaos is necessary for creativity. I also believe constraints are also important for creativity. Knowing, well, we can, expand on ideas, but indeed it would be very disappointing to expand on ideas that aren't possible. And kind of this framing is indeed very, very useful, because in my experience, I remember going to one discussion about an urban planning for a part of Bucharest, and there was no clear reason of what we were being consulted on. And there was a lot of pressure, like, hey, we have like 3 subjects we want to talk, and we pushed the conversation straight to the subject, because indeed that was the thing that was missing. We weren't quite clear what was the purpose of us being there, and what exactly, where did we have the freedom to decide. And I think that's a very valid point. And in your experience, do people respond naturally to this format, or do they tend to kind of want to say, no, I want it done another way?
No, and no. No, people don't respond well when it comes to this. But this is a broader experience. It's not just Pakhuis Zwijger for me. So I really, really, really believe that as a politician, your number one priority should be to lead and to take your constituents seriously. And that means that you listen to them, but also are very clear about what's going on. And leading means that you don't give them exactly the answers they perhaps want to hear, but at least tell them what kind of questions are coming up. And then at the next election or other elections, they can talk about that. And this is far from clear, because it's much easier to tell people what they want to hear. And it's much easier to win elections that way.
True.
And that's on one side. And also it's easier from a city government to just say, okay, let's have the people, let's hear it about it, and don't give away that much power. So you have this veto power over everything. That's unfair to the people. If you want them to participate, give them a choice about what they want to participate about. Otherwise, why bother? And for the people, of course, there is this, well, even in the Netherlands, but I'm pretty sure all over the world, there is this idea of skepticism about government, because the experience is that most of the times that even if government says we will listen to them, it's very easy to just overrule. And when you do that, all trust is gone. And so it's very hard to get the trust. And you need this moderating influence of this third party to make sure that the trust is gained. And then again, you need to follow your own rules. If you don't, everything is off and it doesn't work. So yeah, again, do this. Be very clear about this. And yeah, and again, I understand this is the hardest thing you can do because you give away power where you perhaps just want it. But I believe that is that will make a good society. And again, in this example I just gave, people didn't have the choice to bring back parking spaces, but it was very important to say that because otherwise they would have said, well, we want to bring back parking spaces. And then the government would have said, well, that is not possible. And afterwards would have said, we want to make this so that no ambulances can go through. And then the government would say, it's not possible because ambulances should go through. So these, yeah, you shouldn't say, there should be as little opportunity to say no from a government side to the things people are asking. And therefore you need good guidelines, but also good information about what we're talking about. Climate adaptivity, adaptive measures, these kind of things, what are needed. You need to share these things so people are informed and know what they're talking about.
Indeed. I think it's that part of this, establishing a contract with the audience, but also having a clear idea of educating on why certain decisions and why the frame exists.
Yeah.
I would love
the fun thing there was for go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to take this opportunity because I have some interesting questions in the comments that I would love to bring back to you. So maybe this is a question that has already been indirectly answered, but I would give some purpose. It's from Juana, and she asks, how do you select the participants? Is it a random selection or based on interest, first come, first serve? And if it's the latter, how do you ensure representativity? And if the results are biased in any way, because whoever comes, that's it. Do they actually represent everyone in that discussion?
That is a hard question. Wow.
Yeah, I know.
It's also a very good question. The things that the video you just showed, where we do this online programming or the thing on the website, that is, we are a broadcaster in that sense. Or before COVID, we are this theater that hosts things. So of course there's the subject idea. We invite people to join, and we do that based on what our perspective of role in society is. So we try to bring people together and talk about topics where we think it is needed to talk about to get to this point beyond the horizon. We just talked about the role of politicians and the role of civic society and the role of bottom-up movement in society. And this cooperation between government and society, and you don't choose who participates. So when it is our own programming for our own audiences, we ask people to join us, like you asked me to join you today, and so we try to have this most broad as possible dialogue, but also in a way that's interesting to listen to and people can learn something from. And of course, this is subjective because it comes from our brain. This is not, and people can watch, and all people can ask questions, and that is not first, especially with Zoom, it's not first come, first serve, because there is no need for that. In our venue, in essence, it is, but we can host in our building up to 700 people. And then, so it's rarely needed. But when it comes to the government, you do need to be very specific about that. You do, and with these kind of projects, you need to involve people living in the area, but also businesses in the area, and all stakeholders to really involve them in the thing that's going on there. And in that sense, you can't exclude people, and you need to make an effort to include people.
Indeed. Otherwise, yes.
That answers the questions.
Yes. No, indeed. It's a very beautiful answer. Now we have actually a question from Grazian. He's saying hello. He's watching us. So, because this is a thing, indeed, I didn't get to focus too much on, and that is the We Make the City festival, because this is one of the, if not the biggest festival of citizens' involvement in Europe. How did you adapt this concept? You can give us a brief idea of what the festival is about, but how did you adapt it in the context of COVID?
We Make the City Festival started because Amsterdam, the city of Amsterdam, we were one of the authors behind that, won the 2016 iCapital Award. That is the European prize for urban innovation and smart cities. And we won that not because we said we want to build our city with all sensors, but we said, well, let's involve the people, the so-called Amsterdam approach. And everyone should be involved in governing, well, the topic we just talked about the last while. In 2018 and 2019, we organized large-scale events with over 40,000 people participating on all different kinds of venues throughout the whole metropolitan region of Amsterdam, and both in English, both in Dutch. And we changed that this year. We wanted to do it obviously in June again this year, but it wasn't possible. So we changed that to this 12-hour marathon. And we didn't expect everyone to watch 12 hours of programming, but we did want to talk about these kind of topics. So we started with the idea in COVID, we are in the midst of about 6 crises. There is this climate crisis, there is this social crisis, there's the looming economic crisis, there's the crisis of trust, there's the crisis of COVID, and of course, so many levels, the financial crisis, biodiversity crisis, you name it. And they're all connected, but also distinct from each other. And you need to make sure that solutions for one crisis doesn't affect possible solutions, or doesn't affect negatively possible solutions for other crises. So we thought we should build this program, this online livecast, where we talk about all different topics, where we normally always talk about, but with the idea of interconnectivity. So we started with, we need creativity, we need imagination to redesign and redesign our society. Then we moved on to public space. Then we moved on to agriculture and food. Then we moved on to circular economy, to data, to connectivity in neighborhoods. How you can make sure that people can still afford living in their neighborhoods. And to anti-discrimination, because when you discriminate people, you lose part of society, and that is like throwing away money in a sense, and throwing away capital, and throwing away ideas and opportunities, and of course people's lives, most importantly. So and we ended up by, in a macroeconomic sense, what is really needed to do that and to bring that together. So we did this in a livecast setting, which was quite strange, because it feels, we're talking to a screen, and there's this big hall. Again, normally, I showed you the picture in the beginning of this conversation, normally with about 300 people in the venue, and now just a few people. And that is so weird. But the feedback then again is quite nice, and people are happy with what we did. But it's strange. By the way, we want to continue with doing that. We haven't really decided about what 2021 is going to look like. So we have to think about that. But we have this big plan to move up to the 750th anniversary of the city of Amsterdam, or the moment that Amsterdam got city rights. And that will be in 2025.
All right.
But also connected with climate calls and these kind of things. But we just have to play it by ear. So
I love how, I think you already have like a vision for the next 5 years, and indeed that is a pivotal moment that I think does celebrate a lot of that. I think your approach is also very interesting because I think if I were to give an example or to use a metaphor for the project and what you guys have been doing, it's very much the idea that we found a place to bring people together. We brought in the stakeholders, you brought in the most meaningful voices, and then from that point, it's very hard to be ignored. And I'm curious, how has it been to involve so many stakeholders? So, for example, if there's someone tuning in today, which I hope is inspired by this project, and they say, you know what, if I can't get, the local government to hear people's opinions, I would love following, these same footsteps, create my own NGO, find a space and bring people together. What advice would you give to someone starting a project like that, especially when it comes to having all these stakeholders and that you have to maintain good relationships with?
First of all, there is no business case to doing this. That is number one. Number two is try to involve people at this at the high abstract level. So if you try to connect with partners, with different kinds of organization at this high abstraction level, because there you can build trust and you don't need to overlook every little detail. So if you have this deal with someone to make this event, then it's their event. And then you can't be independent. So of course you need to build trust. You have to have this long-term plan. You have to have this idea where you go, and you have to have this can-do attitude. And I'm very happy Egbert Franse, my boss, started it all, because it gives the opportunity for the rest of us to do this and to do this kind of work. But it isn't straightforward, it isn't easy, but you just have to do it. But I think it's frightfully important, and you don't have to do it like we do, but it's frightfully important that we talk with each other in society, and we just don't shout or shout over each other, and really connect with what's going on. So you're literally the street in front of your house, you have a lot of rights to talk about that. And all these, if you, I don't know the figures in Romania, but if you look in Amsterdam, every child in Amsterdam is involved with, affected by the lousy air quality. That means lower lung capacity. These kind of topics we're talking about. Children dying on the street, it's because they got hit by cars because we drive too fast in towns. That is a real thing we need to talk about. But also discrimination, room for climate adaptiveness, all these kind of topics is a real influence on people's life. And then there is all the political choices still there. So we should stop with, and I think that's number one advice, stop with this fake dialogue on whether or not climate change is real or whether or not diesel is bad for your health. Newsflash, it is. But let's talk about how we're going to fix that. And I'm pretty sure there's a huge left-right divide on that topic as well. At just the topic where we don't move forward. We need to move forward.
And I think, like you said, the framing the conversation specifically on, we're not debating on whether this or this is real, but rather how do we solve this particular issue, does kind of create a different environment. If from there you kind of make sure that by design you bring in only the people that have relevant interest in seeing that happen, and also you have the people that would benefit from it, knowing, okay, so if we redesign the street, and keep in mind these are the restrictions, how we would redesign it in a way that it would be friendly. I, for one, I am optimistic about the fact that here at Urbanize Hub and in general, we've tried to create this community of people that are more aware of how the design of the cities, the design of public spaces, all of that influences them. And hopefully in these next few years, we'll reach that critical mass, and we'll get to see not just a online conversation, but also an offline space of dialogue, because indeed, that is the hardest thing to achieve most of the times. Dialogue is not as easy as it sounds, right? To shout and to debate ideas, that's easy, right? that's not something that requires too much engineering. But dialogue indeed is a feat, because it does require also being able to change your mind, which I believe it can be challenging for some people if they come with their own strict points of view. And then dialogue does require that space for both parties to be willing to accept their biases.
True. I need to say to myself, and we all need to say to ourselves every time, am I doing this because of a bias, or is this a proper dialogue that needs to happen? And so, of course, I have this political idea. Of course, I have a view of society. And when listening to what I say, you have perhaps a good idea where they lay. But at the same time, if you go to fact-based dialogue, you can get beyond that and you can really talk about that. And then again, and I'm repeating myself, but then you get to questions where you can have this political debate. And then it's constructive.
Indeed.
So, yeah.
Indeed. Well, I must say I'm thankful that we had this conversation, and once again I highly encourage people that have been inspired by this to check out the website. It's already in the comments. You can check it out and see the English programs, and just to get a bit of a feeling of how Parkhuis works and how you can, if you want, replicate or try to use this as an inspiration for the type of the type of discussions that we can have here as well. Because even though right now, especially I would even say even more, because right now we're all forced to stay in our homes, dialogue is up the most importance. So if you want to start up a conversation on a topic that really matters, get some inspiration. Please take in mind the principles that we talked about today from Servaz, because I believe they're very, very important on making sure you have the right frame, and the people that are going to be there they're going to know exactly what they're gonna get. But more importantly, I believe that this is a showcase of, in general, I think not just for cities in Romania, but cities in general, to activate citizens in a constructive way, in a way that empowers them rather than just sways them one direction or another. It's very much about empowering them and educating them to be the leaders of that community. Well, Servaz, I would love to say, first of all, thank you. It was a pleasure to have you here. Please follow Servaz and follow their work at Parkhuis de Zwijger. Did I say it right this time?
Yeah, you said so it's Parkhuis de Zwijger. But if people just look me up on LinkedIn or Twitter as Van Berkum or servaz@dezwijger.nl. So if we can all help. I'm open to do that. Oh yeah, and one thing, yes, feel free to make mistakes. Don't try to be perfect. Perfect is impossible. We all make mistakes, and then we have to move forward from that and learn from that. That's one extra lesson I just forgot.
True. These are the three important ingredients to creativity: chaos, constraints, and failures. So use these ones usefully, and hopefully we'll get to hear some good case practices from the people tuning in that have tried out this idea, because we need good examples going both ways. Thank you for tuning in once again for this series on shaping sustainable cities. We still have 4 more conversations coming up. Next week, we're going to talk about smart cities and innovation projects. So we're going to talk about Amsterdam. We're going to talk about Eindhoven. So stay tuned to Urbanize Hub. Stay tuned to the Dutch Embassy in Netherlands. Thank you once again, Servaz. See you next time.
See you next time. Bye.